Emerging in a sea of misinformation, outright lies, and institutionalized indoctrination, together we are flipping the pyramid.
Well, hope you can hear me now. Sorry about that, guys, and I will not do that again. For some reason, my whole thing froze on me, and I managed to disconnect myself as well at the same time. So, a great start to the show. Welcome along, everybody. I hope you can hear me now. And it's the reality check once again with Bluebus. Monday, the 17th of September. And if you listen on pod, you would have missed the start of the show because I had to start the recording again. But I did play a tune at the beginning. I think the guys in the chat heard it. Yes, the Eels. I might play it again later, but old shit, new shit. Yes, very appropriate, I thought. As we head into this week with the lots going on. Just like to say thanks to Keelan last night, his show. If you caught it, listen to it on pod. Excellent show, and was listening to that. Went on for quite a bit longer than normal, but it was very, very good. And also, yeah, thanks to all the other hosts as well who come along each day. Cookie Thursday evening doing the virtual shamanizing. And Red on a Friday evening, but unfortunately I have to mention Red's just let me know in the chat before he won't be here this Friday to do his show, guys, so he'll be back the week after, so there'll be no show this Friday, just to keep everybody up to date with that. And yeah, me on Monday, and not sure if Ian's coming back. He was doing a show on Wednesday. He didn't do one last Wednesday, but I'm sure he'll be back to do his Wednesday punk show as well. But like I say, welcome along everybody, and hope everybody's doing good. And like I say, what a week, after listening to Keelan's show and everything that's been going on. The week just rumbles on again in pretty much the same fashion with what's been occurring these last few days. We're having the bombardment of the mainstream media with all the stuff over this Muslim hate movie still going on, still rumbling away, and more people dying as a result. And it seems quite evident that this has all been set up, and some information coming out. And Keelan mentioned in his show regarding the filmmaker and the people behind this, and the fact that it's also been on YouTube for quite some time as well. There's obviously editing going on. It's obvious, you can see, and it's just basically creating more problems, more separation, just more hate. And it carries on. And we also had the killing of the US ambassador in Libya, and more diplomatic ties being cut with Syria by Canada as well. Sorry, yeah, with Syria, with Canada, and it's sorry, not Syria. Sorry, Iran. So yeah, we've got Iran and Canada. Canada coming out and saying that basically it's a rogue state and blah blah, the usual rhetoric to demonise Iran again. And we also have an armada of international naval power amassing in the Gulf at the moment. That's according to the Telegraph. So warships are gathering, Israel waits, Iran is being jostled and poked and prodded at various angles by various people. More hatred's been stirred up in the Muslim community. It's all going on. It's kind of hard to take in just how much they're sort of potentially trying to destabilize us in ourselves, the way that it's all being carried out, how we're receiving this kind of information. And it does sound like they're gearing towards, and I'm hearing it all the time, World War III. It seems to be something that's come out a lot in the last few weeks, being said again. This sort of push towards a world war where countries become involved, and with the amassing of sort of naval vessels. I've got a link to that story somewhere when I get it up, when I sort myself out. But yeah, it's not looking particularly bright at the moment in these in these times, when you think about the potential for something really big to go down, really big to kick off, and it could be just again fearing up the masses, getting us all in that zone, that fear zone where we can, reside, and not what can we do? We feel powerless, and these are all really just techniques that I think, especially the mainstream media are using to keep us all in a state of mass fear. I'm not saying these stories aren't true, but what I'm saying is the way in which, we're being fired at, and it's all the same people behind it. That's the problem. It's the same awful little evil cabal which make up this number of small amount of people really who are controlling everything and letting all of these types of events unfold. And this is what we are sort of seeing through really quickly with a lot of, especially the false flag stories we've seen recently, the shooting in Denver, all these types of events. They've all seemed to be sort of being thrown at us at the last few weeks or so, and all getting us to sort of question things. There's other agendas at play. The whole mess of it all, really keeping everybody nicely distracted and over here concentrating on this and that and whatever, and it's all just really like I say, a kind of way to work at your fear and to get you completely sort of locked down in there. I know the people like us in here who come to the chat, etc., or the presenters, that these types, we are sort of a little bit more, I think, trying to get to the truth of this and get this information out there. But it's important not to get too fearful about things, because it is kind of shocking. It does shock me at times what I'm seeing going on around the world, and how I see politicians speaking as though committing genocide on another nation and killing children and women as being okay. That disgusts me immensely. That other human beings can allow the slaughter of other human beings for the push of some kind of democracy. It still baffles me now how we don't see through this nonsense and start, standing up for ourselves and not putting up with it anymore. And it's, I think it was a clip of Madeleine Albright when she was one of the US bigwigs in the government a few years ago. Can't remember what position. But I did see a clip regarding, her saying it was okay that 500,000 children have died in Iraq. If that's that's okay, if it meets the target of doing what we're doing. This was said a few years back, and it's still being said today. Hillary Clinton is quite happy to advocate war and applaud the death of other people. We've seen that quite regularly from her these last years, few years. Just blatantly applauding the fact that they're going around and killing people. Normally it's not the people they're after. And if it is, then other innocent people normally die along with them as well. And the whole thing goes on. Like I say, Israel just waits in the background, continuing its genocide of Palestine, of cutting off the territories, imposing more, draconian and, just basically treating these people like dirt, and cutting them off from work, food, supplies, and bombing them as well when they feel as though it's justified. So this is all carrying on as normal, and I'm here to sort of maybe put some humour into this kind of show, but it's very difficult to do that when I see all the stories that I see, and find it quite, like I say, very, very disturbing, and there's a lot going on. I mean, I always talk about finding your balance and getting there, but other days I look at the news and think, here we go again, guys. Same old, and when are they finally, when are we finally gonna, say enough is enough, and start, like I say, standing up and taking some, I wouldn't, not violent action. I'm not advocating violence here. I'm advocating just saying simple words like no, and not participating. Withdrawing your consent in any way that you can. That's very important. Small steps, we say this all the time. It's a start. It's waking up. It's a waking up process, realizing that this is going on right now. This isn't a game. This is real. And as powerless as you may feel you are, you can make a difference. You can start being a little bit more non-compliant. If you disagree with something, start maybe doing something about it. And like we said here many times, it's the small steps, and people start to then begin to understand that they have some power. And it's not, like I say, egotistical power in the sense you want to control other people. You're wanting the rights and your ability to be able to go wherever you want, have your freedom, not have your money taken off you, etc., etc. This all, like I say, it wanders off in different directions sometimes, guys. But the point is, we're in this right now, and it's not looking great. And with all of the other underhanded stuff that goes on in the background, and all the, we get all the, like I say, with Syria, with all the, again, the stories confirming, the West's help with these rebels to destabilize Syria. And all of it's there, it's all out there, and the mainstream news just pump out, and they just don't care anymore. I mean, the stories coming out now are just getting more and more just blatant, even in the the tabloid media, and as we see, the lies and more lies. Again, we had confirmation of that, as again we saw the 1989 Hillsborough disaster, which killed 96 people back in 1989, and remember it very well. And I remember the stories. I remember the awful headlines that were being printed about the so-called people who were dying and being mugged and urinated on, etc. Awful things. I mean, to put that in the papers and all they say is sorry 20 odd years later, it's just not good enough. It really isn't. I know Keelan said this as well, but it needs to be said again. It is just, again, another example of the press continually feeding you nonsense and lies and bullshit, mainly, most of the time, with its own agenda, of course, run by its editor, who is controlled by somebody higher than him, who is telling him he has to do it this way. And that's how it works, and it still works like that today in all of the mainstream news, and it's not going to change. So don't for any minute think that just because they've come out and apologised that they're going to be good, and all these, there is a double-edged sword to this, in the sense that restrictions on press freedom, etc., and being able to write, well, that's good, that in a way that shouldn't be touched. But what I'm saying is the mainstream media, with its blatant lies, without its proper research, and taking false statements. The police as well involved in this, and it's just a mess, really. And it's been known for years. It's not something we didn't already know. It's something that has been known for a long time, that the police were to blame, and the newspaper printed a load of lies to back that up, really, to support the state, to support the police. As we know, the police are always heavily supported by the government, and police prosecutions, as we know, are very rare, especially with deaths in police custody, as we've talked many times about, and that's something, again, I mean, we've had the police being Ian Tomlinson, the guy, I can't remember his name, it's gone out of my head, who was today, I think he was sacked. Yeah, he was sacked from his job. I did catch it quickly. Sorry, there's that much going on. I've been trying to catch about 25 stories in about 3 hours. It does take, some of them do go over my head sometimes, but yeah, he'd been sacked, and he will still keep his police pension, though. Oh yes, he will still keep the police pension, although he's been officially dismissed from his post, where he should actually be sitting in a jail cell, actually. Because that's just he's gotten away with it, really, and judging by his past history as well, it's a very he has a history of violence, and for him to walk free from that court without the jury even knowing the past of this guy, and I think says it all, really, the way the system works. The real criminals are walking the streets and running your government and the banks and sitting on a throne. So there's they are the real criminals. They're the real people who should be brought to task over how they've got away with it. But like I say, the police, again, it's another example again of just how much power they've taken off us, and the fact that we're presented with lies in a constant fashion daily, Again, I've said to people in work, you're reading this stuff, but you're reading lies about lies. It's crazy shit, man. It's just how messed up a society do we live in. We're reading a paper with lies about lies about lies. It's just, where are we? It baffles my mind, guys. It really does sometimes. But yeah, I'll get into a couple of those little stories I did put up, because the Telegraph, like I say, coming out of the Telegraph today regarding this so-called armada, which is apparently on its way. I'll stick the link in there. But the armada of US and British naval power is massing in the Persian Gulf in the belief that Israel is considering a preemptive strike against Iran's suspected nuclear weapons program. Here we go again. How many times? How many times? This has been going on for, it seems like years. It probably is years. But it's certainly got more intense. It's never gone away. It never goes away. And we're just seeing now either some sort of weird game being played out, or we're going to see some kind of action. And I hope it isn't the latter, because that will really mess things up quite considerably for a lot of us. So it's a time of interesting days ahead, I think. But this, I'll stick that link in. You've probably seen it, but I'll whack it in the chat anyway. It's just, again, another little hit piece from one of the, I wouldn't say the tabloid. It is a tabloid, though. It's the mainstream media, so you come to expect what we expect from them. You've got to see through the lies and see through the bullshit. That's the trick, and I think pretty much most of us here who do look into this stuff a little deeper, and there's a lot of us, we can see straight through it pretty much within an instant almost. Just the fact that it's been said on the radio or on the TV news, suddenly you think, what's the agenda here? And it normally leads you to the truth, or at least some semblance of a truth or some understanding, because that's the problem we have. I mean, we're fed little tidbits and snippets. Sometimes that could be misleading as well, so it's very difficult, but we seem to be seeing through quite a lot of these, like I say, false flag things and various attacks that have been taking place in America and that. And with this Muslim movie, I really don't know. I think it's just it's an interesting one. We've got the American elections coming up, again another agenda at play. You've got again more, I like to think, like I said before, that it's just to create more hate, more diversion, and more disconnectedness from people in general. It's a very powerful thing that they're doing. They're disconnecting more and more people. And hearing some people talking the other night, we happened to dive into a pal talk room just out of curiosity, and heard some people talking in there. And it does make you think, the way that people are being used and manipulated, and have this inherent kind of hatred of other people just because of a skin colour is to me, it's beyond belief. I think it's just you grow up in the, I mean, I'm older. I wouldn't say I'm old, but I grew up in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and continue to grow in this present moment. But racism and things like that, I never. I think you have to be stupid and foolish if as a child or as a young adult or a teenager you're being manipulated by a certain group of people, and you are. Well, then you are. So that's the awareness. You get out. It's and you don't agree with something. The trouble is people do find themselves trapped in these groups or in these kind of environments where they finding it, hard, or they're just too weak. But, that realization of getting out and, you can change. It's not, it's just about how your mind's been washed, how you've been indoctrinated. Racism comes in all shapes and forms, and hatred is obviously the main part of it, and the negativity it creates within the body, within the system, within you. That negative, that hatred. Why do you dislike someone who's why do you dislike anything for that matter? Any human being, and that hatred inside is it will manifest. It will eat away inside, and it will create lots of negativity within you. And hearing people talking in that room the other night, I was quite shocked, really. And sometimes I think, are these people completely and utterly beyond help? I do ask that question. Are they completely, is there anything that could get through to them, that could say to them, what you're talking and how you're seeing the world is complete and utter nonsense? Well, there's nothing, because they have to see it for themselves, and that's the hard part. We have to watch, and, the best thing to do is not to be involved with these people in any shape or form. And if in the past or something happens, or you're younger and you're being influenced, well, you move away from that, and you don't associate with that negative hatred, because it is hatred. Hatred at that level, hatred of another human being, is really not the place to be. And like I say, it can create lots of negativity in yourself over time. But there you go. And I'm going off on tangents, and it's I've been yakking for nearly half an hour. So what I'll do is I'll play a tune, I'll come back, I'll grab a quick drink of water, and I did have some songs lined up, so I'll play you. I don't know whether to play the one I played at the beginning, but you've heard that one, so let's have a look. Let's go for Here we go. I think I'll go for this long one. Give me 7 minutes. It's a bit of a sort of instrumental, but I hope you like it. And I'll be back in a bit.
We are flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flip the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flip the pyramid. We aim to see the world as it really is.
Turning that pyramid on its head.
www.flippingthepyramid.co.uk.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.
flippingthepyramid.co.uk.
Flipping the whole paradigm of that hierarchical system on its head.
Hi and welcome back. You're listening to The Reality Check with Bluebus on this Monday evening, live from flippingthepyramid.co.uk. Don't forget to check out the website. If you're listening on podcast, or you go to the website and you check out all the ways you can download the show, etc. There's lots of things there you can check out. News stories as well, loads of videos, music. And check it out, and become a member as well. Join up to the site and create your own profile, etc. And it's a good alternative to Shitbook. I mean, that's the aim, I think, to move away from these mainstream dominated social media, which are continually changing and adapting ways to use your information, etc. As we've seen many times. This site, Flipping the Pyramid, no ads, nothing like that. It's a group of individuals, as you can go into the site, see it, and it's all us just doing our thing. We just getting the truth out there and doing our shows, and I'd say writing our blogs, etc. Not me, but others. When I get time, I've just about time to kind of get here and do the show about 10 minutes before it starts. So it's a kind of bit of a rush for me, but I should do more blogs, etc. and should do a bit more writing when I do get the time. But unfortunately, work does take up a massive chunk of my day and time, really, and generally mentally wears me out as well. I can just about sit here and talk to you guys. It's like, but no, anyways. But like I say, check the site out. It's really good, and welcome along. This is the next half hour or so. I'll be chatting away and just basically going through some other stories that I've seen this week and some today, and just examples of loss of freedoms and basically how we're being treated and how we let the system, if you like, just do what it likes with us if we let them. It's nice to see more people being clued up with their rights these days, especially when it comes to dealing with the police and dealing with people of so-called authority. It's nice to see people actually are doing something about that now and getting an understanding of their rights and who they are. etc. And that's becoming more and more intense now. We're seeing more of those people more police officers being challenged, more government officials being challenged, more people standing up in courts and challenging, even though sometimes the outcome isn't what they want. But the fact of the matter is, people are getting, if you like, informed, and they're doing things, and they're challenging the system in some way, and that's what the key is here. That the key is to get up there and defend, and to stand in your power, as we say many times. Know who you are, that kind of thing. Know that you are. No one is born above you. We're all equal. We're all human beings of the planet, and everything else has been created to give you an illusion that you're powerless, and you have your little place, your little concrete box of reality that they place you in, and that's where you stay. You mustn't come out of that, because if you do, oh dear, we'll hit you over the head. And that's what we see happening now. More and more people are beginning to come out of that, and are beginning to challenge, and that's so good. But unfortunately, there are still stories coming out of people being assaulted by the police, and being for no reason whatsoever, just being challenged because they look suspicious or they've done nothing wrong. But there's a case today, and this came out the Daily Mail again. There's a guy here, an electrician. I don't know if anyone saw this story. It came out, was this today? Yeah, 17th. Yes, it was today. Electrician was tasered with 50,000 volts for carrying a screwdriver in his pocket. Now, the headline would suggest, screwdriver in his pocket. He must be a criminal. He must be a terrorist. Arrest him. As it turns out, this electrician was a guy called Chris Thomas. Lives in Swansea, and he'd been to his friends repairing some lights in a nearby pub, helping a friend out repair. So he's got his tools with him, and what he did was he had a couple of drinks in the pub, as you do with your mates. You've come and fixed his lights, he's given you a couple of beers, and what he did, he inadvertently walked out of the pub with a couple of screwdrivers in his pocket, basically, just tools for the job. And basically it created a security scare, because he was walking around one of the stores, and somebody spotted a man carrying a screwdriver or poking out of his pocket the handle of a screwdriver, whatever, and reported the incident. So the police turn up and burst 50,000 volts of tasered him with electricity into him 4 times. 50,000 volts 4 times into this guy. Obviously, they said he'd had he was a bit wobbly, but he'd had a couple of drinks. He wasn't causing any harm. He's probably thinking, what the hell's going on? I'm an electrician. Next thing he knows, he's been tasered. And this has been reported in the Mail. I'll stick the story in. And obviously, the case has been thrown out. And the waste of public funds and money, etc., all being cited in this Daily Mail piece here. But the fact of the matter is, this is a stark reality, really. Somebody sees something, totally, starts to panic. Oh my God, the police are there, and bang, this guy's being tasered and hauled off, locked away, and appears in court, but the case is thrown out by the judge. So it's just like I say, it's amazing that the way in which the police just totally overreact anyway. But in some cases they do step way outside their jurisdiction, and some of that's even been evidenced on film, where police have been totally stepping outside their jurisdiction. And the way that they use now, interestingly enough, I was thinking the council tax. Someone was telling me the other day that they're not paying their council tax, and they had a letter from the council tax saying that if they didn't pay, they would be visited by their council officials plus the police. And I thought, what, the police? Why would they put the police in there? You're not, again, that's acting. Again, it could be even the very fact that it's thought police crime again, isn't it? If you've said to them, you come round here, you're being a bit off with them, they think, we need protection. There could be an incident here, so the police turn up too. So this is what's happening, but it's, again, these are rare incidences, I think. But again, if the police do turn up, I mean, you would just be as polite as anything and say, "Well, you're outside your jurisdiction. Please, you're not required here." But I'm assuming with people trying this kind of technique, they've ended up in jail, or ended up with lots of difficulty. But again, it should never put people off. These are the threats they use. These are the types of techniques that are used to keep you in your little box, so you don't jump out of your little box and try and be free and say, "I don't want this anymore. I've had enough." And this again is what's happening. And like I say, this story regarding this gentleman, unfortunately for him, he got he had a zap of taser, and but again, just the example is amazing to think that they are just continuing doing what they like when they like, and if they get a report, in they go. But another distressing story that I saw, which was regarding these. Again, it goes back to Atos a little bit with this. People are now apparently British people are committing suicide to escape poverty. I don't know if this came out of the Mail again. This is a while ago, but it's been updated since because it's been well known that people's benefits have been scrutinised now by the government, and Atos being the French company coming in, who also sponsored the Paralympics. How ironic is that? How the hypocrisy just is amazing. How one company can on one hand be supporting people with disabilities and on the other taking their benefits away from them. How crazy can you get? But there's quite a sad story here of this guy. It says in the last few months of his life, it says Craig Monk attempted several overdoses and was described as vulnerable by his family. It says an accident a few years before had resulted in the partial amputation of his leg, and he had suffered unnecessary and anxiety-inducing obstructions in receiving state assistance, even though his disability was clear for all to see. Over time he slipped further into poverty. The ends could no longer meet, it says here, and finally the fear of there not being a light at the end of his personal tunnel overwhelmed him, and he was found hanged in his home last October. And it says in this story, I'd like to say this is a one-off, but obviously we've heard other stories, other people who have just become so despairing that the system is forcing them into work, or potentially making them look for work when they obviously have they're unable to work, they're unfit for work, and it's so obvious. But the way that the media, and in particular, the way this Paralympic event was propagandized, it seems to have added this kind of idea that if you're in a wheelchair you can still go to work, you can still do this, that and the other. So again, we live in quite a bizarre, sick society where we see people with obvious disabilities and who obviously can't do the work are being their benefits are being cut off by the very government that are supposed to be looking after them. Looking after them. It's crazy. We live in a crazy world. We can look after each other. We don't need the government and these people who are handing out the money. And this is our money, by the way. I hasten to add, this is our money, and I would like to see my money go and help people, go and help the people who don't have it. And I'd be quite happy to go to work and pay for people who don't have the means to look after themselves and feed themselves. That's how good people should be. Whatever job you do, whether it's in a new society or in this old bullshit we live in, it's about helping each other. It's about, connecting with each other. And you should want, it shouldn't be an effort to help somebody, really. If it's an effort, then there's something that, obviously is, you have to look at yourself a bit more closely. Obviously, there's not all the times you can help people, obviously, but when it's convenient and you can, I think, most people, if we just had a bit more of attention with each other. And again, I talk about these communities, our communities are so, just don't exist anymore. We might say a small hello and a smile in the street, but that's about as far as it goes, and that's only if you're in a nice area. Look anybody in the eye in the inner city, and who knows what may happen. So it's a kind of, we do live in this kind of strange, mixed-up society, and just losing that, that kind of, that being driven, if you like, by the government and the way they want to plant these ideas into us about this is how it should be, and taking away people's benefits, people who need it, and making that sound okay and acceptable. And as we see, people are dying, people are committing suicide because they can't cope with it. They can't cope at all. These people probably haven't worked for 20 odd years, and they're probably receiving letters telling them they have to go for some kind of assessment, and then their benefits are suspended by Atos. Yes, the very same company. It's disgraceful, disgusting, and it's, it beggars belief. And that's what's happening right now. And also, yes, another story I saw which kind of made me sort of think, oh, here we go. Firing people will be made easier, the new business minister says. Yes, he says. Michael Fallon, a key ally of David Cameron, said the new plans would deal with the burdensome and expensive problem of getting rid of unwanted staff. Yes, and ironic, isn't it? They're trying to get people into work, and this arsehole's working out ways out to fire them. Good, damn it. Great. Anyway, it says, pressure from the Liberal Democrats forced the coalition to shelve plans for no-fault dismissal earlier this year, which would have allowed small companies to fire people without blame. It says, Mr. Fallon and the coalition is not going back to fire at will. What do you mean not going back to fire at will? Right, okay, but he claimed ministers are still committed to making it easier to sack people. This is what he says. He says, absolutely, there are going to be changes announced later this week because we do not want to deal with the burdensome nature of hiring and firing people and the cost of tribunals. Yes, he said. A lot of small businesses are worrying that if they do take on somebody extra and they're not sure whether they perform well and they turn out not to be a help to the firm, that is going to be it's going to be very expensive and take a lot of management time to get rid of them. Crazy. I mean, the whole idea of this. I mean, I was just thinking of it. It's just again another example of how you're being just used like a good little slave. You don't want it anymore. Off you go. And there's no comebacks, no nothing. I mean, tribunals are in place to help people if you are in work. I mean, I've actually had an experience with a tribunal, as you could probably guess, and it came to an out-of-court settlement in the end. Now, that was in a job which I'd only been working in for just over 12 months. It was about 13 months that I worked in this job. And I went in one day and was basically told not to come back, just out of the blue. I don't know why, but obviously they didn't like me. But anyway, that's another story. But the fact is that I looked into it further, as I do, and realised that they'd breached a couple of major, so-called, laws in this tribunal law, in this employment law. So I decided to investigate further. Wrote a few letters, contacted a few people, and instigated tribunal proceedings. Now, this was all just after 12 months. What this guy's saying in these stories here, you could be with a firm for 2 years or more even, and they could still turn around and fire you, get rid of you, and it's just basically see you later. You're not wanted. So there's no comebacks. There's no effort by the employer to find you other employment. There's no effort for them at all. They just get rid of you, and there's no comebacks. So it opens up a real, awful scenario of just people being absolutely abused in the workplace, in the sense that they're getting low wages anyway. They're not getting very good sickness benefits, and they're being also now under the threat of they can just be fired. And this guy, this Michael Fallon geezer, is all for this policy to come into place, and I'm sure it will. And they just want to get away basically from what he calls the expensive and cumbersome tribunal system, and to make it easier and quicker for people to reach negotiated settlements. Well, the only time you get an employer to actually play ball with you is when you take him to a tribunal. That's the only time they will actually start to listen to you. Otherwise, they just don't give a shit. And they will, it'll be expensive for you to get your own solicitor. There'll be none of this help where a tribunal will help you. So again, it's another, example of how not just, things are happening to people who aren't in work, but the people who do find themselves, in employment. It's becoming even more difficult to have any kind of rights in the workplace, and these are all being eradicated. And with the political correct and the health and safety mob, it just gets even more crazy. People are being fired for the most ridiculous things now. So it's again, just another example of our latest government ideas that they're throwing around here. I'll stick the story in there because it's quite interesting. But it's like I say, it's all coming into play, and the only I can't even say the only good thing that Labour did, and the whole point of me telling you that story about myself was Labour had changed the employment law, which was under the Tories. It was 2 years. So if you were in a job for 2 years or more, you could take your employer to a tribunal if you had good grounds. When Labour came into power in 1997, they did revert back to 12 months. And where my employer was such a fool and didn't know his stuff, he thought it was still 2 years, and I sued him. Yay! So there you go, up yours. So again, know your stuff. That's what I say. Always know what's happening. Because if the uninformed, and I've seen people who just walk away from situations like that and never take it any further and say you've got a really good case there, and if you pursued it, you'll get something back. Because these people have been sucking the life off you for years or whatever it is, and they think they can treat you like that. Well, no. Again, corporations get these bastards, and they're trying to, if you like, plug every hole to protect themselves from ever giving an employer any kind of good benefits of any kind now. And when you read stories like that, it just goes to show just what this current government really do think about us, really do think about the population and the working class, those who do have jobs, which are being, if you like, they're being chipped away at day by day, turning into agency work, turning into just slave labour wages, where people are just just about keeping their heads above water, and those who are disabled now, as I've just said, they're being forced back into work as well, even free paid work, all this nonsense. You'll lose your benefit if you don't go back, if you don't try this. So you're working for free. This is again going back to what I said. It's about taking a stand in any way that you can, and you challenge this system in any way you can, even if it's from within it. And you question it, and you tie, you can tie these people up in knots, really, when you challenge them, because they don't know. They're just like robots. They haven't even thought about what what the implications are, or they're dealing with a human being. And when you remind them of that, they just don't know how to handle it. But that's what we need to be doing en masse. We need more and more of us to be doing this, and standing up for ourselves, like I say, in any shape or form you can. And it's, it'll all be good. It will all be good. And let's just hope that what I've talked about in the show tonight is not going to come to fruition, especially what's going out in the Middle East at the moment. So let's just see. But if it, whatever happens, you must remain calm. You must remain at your centre, and not get too, if you like, feared out with this. Because I think ultimately, my personal opinion, and it's just my opinion, I think they're full of shit, all of them, and they're trying their very, very best to get you into that low state of thinking and into that lower energy, so when something does happen, they can completely and utterly control you. But if you're in that higher state and you're in that awareness zone, you'll know what to do and you'll know where to go, and I'm sure everything will be fine. So anyway, good luck, guys. Thank you for listening tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Don't forget, next show is not Wednesday, it's Thursday with Cookie, so check Cookie out. Virtual Shamanizing between 9 and 11 on Flipping the Pyramid pyramid.co.uk. And just a reminder, Red won't be doing a show this Friday, but he'll be back the following Friday. And don't forget Sunday, Keelan Balderson with the Wide Shut webcast. He'll be back next Sunday between 8 and 9 o'clock. But like I say, thank you for listening, and think good thoughts, and all have a good week, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Have a good one, guys, and I'll leave you with another song that I haven't lined up as per usual, but I think I'll leave you with the song I played in the beginning. So if you are listening on pod, I do like this song, so you're going to hear this again, guys, but I can't find it, so I'll have to play another one. No, I'll play this one actually. I did have this one lined up as well, and I've just found it. So have a good one, and I'll speak to you next week. Ta-ta.
Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.co.uk.
Flip the pyramid. Turning that pyramid on its head.
Flipping the pyramid.
Flip the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Flip the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.co.uk.
Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the pyramid.
Flipping the pyramid.co.uk.
Flipping the pyramid. Flipping the whole paradigm of that hierarchical system on its head.